Welcome back, Garage Ministries. Tonight, we're going to go over a little lesson, and I'm going to be straightforward with you. I'm not going to be nice. The church is corrupt and perverted, just like everything else in the world. Our government's corrupt and perverted. Every institution we have that we have set up has been corrupted and perverted. Even pastors, especially ones that are gay and preaching the fact that Jesus was gay and that he's okay with gays and lovers of the same sex or whatever else. But the Bible clearly states otherwise. God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah for the same exact thing. It's biblical. Read it. Because the problem with Christians is the fact that we don't read enough. Most of us don't read at all. We just go to church and listen to the message, and then we go on about our life when we get out of there. Hypocrites. That's what most of us are. That's what almost all of us are. We're all hypocrites for some shape, form, or fashion anyway. But that is the church today, the modern church, the complete opposite of what it was meant to be. Is it a symbol of hope? Maybe. Corrupted hope, perverted hope. Prove me wrong. The church is weak. The church is powerless because we allow the world to dictate our church instead of God dictating the church. We conform to everything else just like everybody else does. And it's all planned. It's all planned. The evil that's running the world right now, for heaven's sakes, if you're a Christian and you can't see it or you support it, the people that are there, then you might as well burn in hell for it too. Because that's where you're going to go. Because you're choosing to ignore it. Evil does not hide anymore. It doesn't need to. Because we've allowed it to infiltrate everything that we do. And why is that? Because Christians have been taught to shut their mouths in fear of just being called an idiot, a conspiracy theorist, a fraud, crazy. The apostles were called all that. Jesus was called all that. And much worse. They all died for Christ. Literally died for Christ. And here we are as like, oh, I don't want to give up my $160 tennis shoes to go help somebody who needs something. I need these shoes. I need this. I need that. We're selfish, arrogant, pompous pricks is what we all are. Every one of us has one foot in the world and one foot in Christ. Most of us don't have that. There's a lot of people still just in the world because they're comfortable with the lies. They're comfortable with the sin. Because you know why? They have been blessed in the sin. They don't want to give it up. And here we are just allowing it. We're allowing it. We're accepting it. Hey, come into church. It's okay. We love everybody. You know what? That is the biggest freaking cop-out of everything. Because even though Christ loved everybody, he still did not allow corrupt people, plainly corrupt people, into his circle without knowing first what the outcome was going to be. Granted, we can't know the outcome. But the thing is that when Christ says, love unconditionally, okay, I can love you from a distance. I don't have to accept you. I can pray for you. That's showing love. I can respect your thoughts and your ideas and who you choose to be. That's love. I don't have to be like, oh man, I love you so much. That was not what it was meant to be. That's not what Christ meant. But love one another. Love your neighbor. You know what that means? It means don't go out there purposefully and be mean. It does not take much for us just to say a kind word. Or to be honest. Somebody insults you, you know what? I can't take that as a compliment. I can't take it as a compliment. Be honest. You know, that's the biggest thing, like I said, with people, with us. We're not honest with ourselves. How are we going to be honest before God if we can't even be honest with ourselves and who we are? We need to take off the mask. We need to expose even the church. This is what I'm doing. I'm done trying to be lighthearted about it. I'm done trying to smooth our way into it or slowly get into it. I'm done trying that because guess what? It's not working. We've been doing this for a long time. It's not working. You go to church. When was the last time you heard the consequences of sin? When's the last time you heard sin called sin in church? Seriously. You know what sin is? Sin is anything that separates us from God. Anything that is not in line with the way God thinks. That's sin. It's not just certain things. It's not just alcoholism, pornography, murder, gangs, cursing. It's not this. Those are examples of sin. But sin is anything that separates us from God. And we have to seriously analyze ourselves and look at ourselves before we're going to be effective in doing anything. And that's what Christ taught his apostles. That's what he was teaching people in his parables. Is you got to look inward. You got to look at yourself and evaluate yourself and your life and what you do and how you treat people and how you treat everything and how you treat God. Because if we're not making God first, which I'm going to tell you right now, I bet you the majority of churches don't even make God first. You know why? Because they're too worried about finances. I'm so tired of going into a church and listening to a sermon about finances or somebody going, oh, well, I hope God blesses your finances. Yeah, okay. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so first of all, guess what? It's not God's job to fix it. Can he? Yes. But what would you learn from that? We put ourselves in these situations. God's not going to fix it. What he's going to do is use it. There's nowhere said God will fix all of our problems, but he would use our situations for good. God is not a wishing well. Jesus isn't a magic genie. If you got financial problems, look at the way you spend your money. Sit down and do a finance class. Look at the way you spend your money. You put yourself there. More than likely, you put yourself in that situation. Everything that we do in our life, we open ourselves up for. Every sin that we fall into, we open the door on our own accord. God doesn't do that. But God won't ever tell us no. He's not going to argue with us. I take it back. He'll tell us no, but he's not going to argue with us. He's not going to force us. He's not going to force us to not do something that we absolutely want to do. If we don't want to listen, okay, here's your consequences. Everything has consequences, good or bad. But God is not going to intervene in a way where it goes against our right of free will that he gave us. He's not going to control us like that. He's going to let us do the dumb crap that we do. And he doesn't even have to hope, he knows. It's either going to bring us closer to him or it's not. But we need to evaluate ourselves. We need to stop pointing fingers at everything else and everybody else and look inward at ourselves and realize that we are our own problem. We are our own problem. Jesus is our salvation, but we are our own problem. And that's why when Christ says a man must die, you have to be reborn, because that old person that you are right now needs to die. And you need to start seeking God in everything, large and small, every decision in your life, every day that you make, that you get up, that God blesses us with another day, and you're up there, you're doing these things, needs to be checked against the Spirit of God, the Word of God, and the will of God. That is how we were meant to be. When we start our day, we should acknowledge God first. Hands down. That's what we need to be doing. Acknowledging God first. But what do? We get up and we acknowledge ourselves first. Are we gods? Guess what? Yeah, we are. Right here. We think we're gods. You know why? Because God's not important enough. Even those in the church, even pastors in the church are so corrupt. Their first thoughts are not going to be on God. They're going to be on what they got to do. What's on their agenda today? What are they going to eat for breakfast? How many of you ever, me included, how many of us ever get up in the morning and say, God, thank you for allowing me to rest. Thank you for giving me another day. How often, how many times, if ever, have we got up and just acknowledged God first? That step one. But there's so much corruption and perversion, even in the church. I challenge the church. I challenge every church, every pastor to reevaluate, evaluate yourself, evaluate your church, and look at who you really serve, because it's not going to be God. The church has been infiltrated and perverted, or corrupted and perverted, and it's been infiltrated by evil. And it's not even because they tried. We brought it in. We brought it in. We did it. Not God, not Satan. We did. And that is like the biggest thing nobody wants to actually talk about, is what we did to cause it. We want to play the blame game. And Satan loves it. He'll take credit for it. But guess what? He didn't do it. We did. We did it. We are the ones that push God aside. We are the ones that don't listen. We are the ones that don't acknowledge Him in everything we do. Satan acknowledges Him. Satan has no problem acknowledging God. But we can't. What's the problem here? Our government's corrupt and perverted. Every system that we have in society, everywhere around the world, is corrupted and perverted and is ran by evil people. Evil doesn't hide anymore. There is no more mask on evil. It's blatantly in your face. And what are you doing as a church? What are you doing as a Christian? Turning a blind eye. You know why? Because you don't want to get involved, because you're afraid to just let go of this world. That is the problem. Fear of letting go of the things you know won't last. That is the lie of the enemy. Society will tell us how to live. Society tells us we're successful if we have a big house and a nice, shiny, fancy car, and we got a bunch of these other things that we don't need. That's what success is measured by in the world. But you want to know what success is measured like by God? It is where your heart is. That is how God measures your success, is where your heart's at. Because what you believe in your heart is what you believe. That's who you are. And we need to start preaching that and stop sitting here and sugarcoating everything. The church sugarcoats everything. Nobody wants to talk about sin. What the hell is sin? Sin is everything that separates us from God. Boom. Mind blown. Oh my gosh, it's so simple. Yeah. Well, I don't want to scare nobody away. You know, fire and brimstone's old school. Fire and brimstone. Have you read this? This is not pretty. This is not all flowers and rainbows and unicorns farting glitter. This is violent and ugly. But it paints the picture of who God is and who Jesus is. But even Jesus wasn't all flower puffs and rainbows. He had anger. He flipped tables over in a synagogue. He went after the Pharisees directly in their face. What do? Today we turn away. We're turning around. Oh my gosh. It's getting too hard, guys. I'm sorry. It's getting too hard in here. I'm going to leave now. They're asking me about my faith, about Jesus. Oh, I don't know. They're asking me where I stand. Oh my gosh. Should I tell them? No, if I tell them, then I'm not going to get what I want. So I'm just going to pretend I don't. And then Sunday I'm going to go into church. But I hope nobody finds out. But I'm going to get what I want. Guys, I'm a gay pastor. And Jesus was gay. So everybody that's gay come to me. Lies. You cannot follow God and be gay. Because God destroyed that in Sodom and Gomorrah. God literally destroyed that. That was one of the biggest reasons he destroyed those cities, was sexual immorality. God does not like that. It's in the Bible. Oh my gosh. What's going on? What's going on with this guy in this video? Has he lost his mind? No. This is the truth. Start preaching it. If you're in a church, voice it. Ask. Question it. If you're not growing there, find somewhere you are growing, but ask. And come against the evil and the perversion and the corruption. Because God is behind you. And if you are doing the will of God, then there is no way you're going to fail. But we have to look at ourselves and reevaluate ourselves and realize that we don't want God 100%. We want all these luxuries, these nice things that society and the world and evil has told us that we needed to be happy and successful. But we want to feel good about ourselves. So we go to God. We go to church because we want to feel good about ourselves. Not to worship, not to praise, not to learn, but to feel good about ourselves. Please try to prove me wrong. And I hope you can. But this modern church is not. It is not right. It is not how it was meant to be. I'm not going to say every church because there's a lot of them. In this country especially, a lot of our churches are corrupt and perverted. And just, they don't care. Evil doesn't care. Evil doesn't hide. But y'all, I want to tell you something. Think about this. How is your relationship with God and Christ? And how is your belief structure compared to somebody, let's say in China? Or how about Afghanistan? You know they cut the heads off of people who are Christians there, right? Would you be willing to do that? Or are you going to turn a blind eye and do the whole thing all over again? Man, I don't want to tell them because I don't want to die. Because if I die, what's going to happen? What is going to happen? Oh my gosh, I got a good life. I don't want to give it up. Okay, no, I'm not a Christian. Yes, I'll convert to Islam. Just don't kill me. The apostles are rolling over in their graves right now. We're all going to go to hell. And we deserve it. Unless we get our act together. The church is corrupt, perverted, and wrong. It's wrong. It's not how it was meant to be. And if you are afraid to die for the one who died for you, then you're not a Christian. If you would have to think or second guess how you would react in a situation like in Afghanistan, then you are not a Christian. I'm just going to be honest. Dead serious. You're not a Christian. But I can promise you, I'll answer it, because a lot of you are probably sitting there going, oh, what would you do? You know what I'd do? I'm sorry, I'm going to die. I will tell my wife and kids, I'm sorry, but I can't do what they're asking. Because I've had encounters with God. I know He's there. I know He's real. And I cannot dismiss that fact. That the only reason I'm sitting here in this chair, in this garage, doing these videos is because of God. Only. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up, church. It's no longer time for all of us to be sheep. We need to be lions. We need to wake up to what's going on and wake up to the corruption and perversion in our churches and our leadership in the church and in the government. We need to start calling out sin, calling it what it is. It's sin. We need to stop sugarcoating things. And we need to stop making... Jesus was not all lovey-dovey all the time. He disciplined. Okay? God disciplined. It's not all rainbows and unicorns and butterflies in a field of daisies with Jesus and God. It's not like that. Because if that's how you interpret this book, then you're wrong. Because this book is violent. All the way through, this book is violent. And you know what the thing is even Jesus was talking to his disciples. And I can't remember the exact verse or nothing like that. But you know what he says? He says the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is violent, and violent men take it. That's what he said. Paraphrasing. Go find it. Google it. It'll come up. I promise you it's in there. We need to stop being passive. We need to be lions. We need to stop being sheep. We need to start calling out evil. We need to get rid of this corruption. We need to come against it. We need to stop being selfish, because that's the problem. We're all selfish. If I stand in front of Jesus, if he comes back tonight and I'm standing in front of him and I'm being judged and he tells me I have an eternity in hell, I earned that myself. And I will accept it. Because I've done a lot of bad things in my life. Some not knowing because I didn't know God, and some since I've known God. Because we're not perfect. That's the thing, is like everybody sits here and thinks that we have to be perfect. That's why we wear these masks. So we wear these masks when we go to church on Sundays and we leave. And we're good for a few hours and we go right back to being in the world. You know why? Because everybody is under this misunderstanding that once you are saved, you will never sin again. You will be perfect in Christ. That is a lie. That is a lie of the enemy. That is a lie of our own self-accord, of our own pompous attitudes, our own righteousness. That is a lie. Because Jesus never said anywhere that if you follow him, you will never sin again. It's not in that book, I promise you. We are going to stumble. We're going to fall. And that is why Jesus doesn't ask for us to be perfect. He asks for our hearts. Because once we put him in here and we love him beyond everything, and we accept him, one, he will change us. Just having that will change us. Two, that's all he's asking. The Spirit. How's that go? The Spirit's willing, But the body is weak. The flesh is how it says. Flesh is weak. That's why he wants our hearts, not our actions. We have to examine ourselves. We're our problem. We're our own problem. Stop hiding behind, well, this is just the way God made me. That's a lie. That's a lie. It's a lie. You might have certain traits because that's just how you were molded. But you know what? There's a lot of things that come into play when it comes to our personalities and who we are and all this and that. There's a lot to come into play. We're not going to get into it because I don't know all of it. Number one and two, we don't got that much time. But I want to tell you this. God, just stop hiding. Stop making God your fall guy. Stop making God the fall guy. He's not a get out of jail free card. He's not a wishing well. Jesus isn't a genie. You're either with him or you're not. You can't be both. And we are. Well, all of us are. We're all lukewarm. Like, oh, well, I'm just going to go to church to make myself feel good about myself. Then I'm going to go back and do what I want because I don't want to lose all of this. Because according to the world, I'm successful. Or according to the world, this is what I need to be happy. When really Christ is all we need to be happy. Look, I'm going to tell you guys straight up, okay? I'm so done with this world. Like, I'm just passing through. And God, I pray a lot sometimes that my train will end and I can get off. Because I don't want to be around all you idiots. I don't want to be around all the corruption. I don't want to be around the people who are just blindly going and letting it all happen, even though they might have a tug down in their heart or their soul that says it's wrong, but they're still not going to do nothing. Like, I don't want to be around any of you that are like that. Like, I already have social anxiety as it is. I don't want to be a part of what's going on anymore. And that's all based on my own self-reflection and what I feel in my spirit and in my heart. But I'm so done with this world. I'm so done with the hypocrisy. I'm so done with the evil and with money rules all and everything. And I'm so done just seeing people being beat down and held down all over the account of greed. You know, the Apostle Paul said it. Okay, I believe it was in Romans. Could be in 1st or 2nd Corinthians, but I believe it was in Romans. The Apostle Paul says that money is the root of all kinds of evil. And funny, a lot of churches preach a lot about money. Think about that. You cannot go into church. You cannot be a pastor and preach all this good, warm, fuzzy stuff that Jesus said and did and not teach the rest of it. Because you're falsely leading people then. You're giving them a false hope, essentially, is what you're doing. We need the whole picture. You got to preach the whole picture. Stop listening to the world. Stop conforming to society. Stop thinking about, well, this is what society wants, this is how I'm going to preach. You know what? Screw all that. Just screw it. Why? Whose salvation are you trying to win? My salvation is whatever it is. I have Christ in here. I have so much fire in my soul right now that I know where God's at. And it's taken a long time for me to get here. And I still stumble. I still make mistakes. But the one thing is that my salvation is already in Jesus' hands. I'm either going to be saved or I'm not. My judgment, nobody knows. We're all the same though. We're judged all the same equally. I don't know what my judgment's going to be. I pray and I hope that it's eternal salvation. But if not, I earned it. So I need to stop worrying about me and focusing on others. This is why I'm doing these videos. Because I've read enough this book many times to understand that the fight is not over. That the fight is not somebody else's to do. It's ours. It's our fight. It's our time. We have to be the light. And that means we have to have the whole picture. We have to understand that the Bible is violent. God is violent. Jesus was violent. Everything in that book is violent. But for a purpose. For justice. It's a justful violence. We'll get into it later on. But I'm telling you guys, if I am wrong, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong that your church isn't corrupt and perverted and hypocritical. Prove me wrong. One of the things I look for when I go into a church is what they do on the outside. What's your outreach ministry look like? Oh, we just dump money into this or that. So you don't want to build disciples? Well, yeah, we have a discipleship class. Oh, you have a discipleship class, but you're not being a disciple. Hard pill to swallow. Everything in our world has been corrupted by evil. A lot of false prophets. What are we going to do about it? We're the problem. Maybe we should be on our knees, asking God how to fix it. Asking Him to guide us to fix it. And if not, take this cup from me. If it's not in His will, then His will be done. And it will be. And I have a feeling it's going to be soon. Maybe not my lifetime. But I don't think it's much longer than that. See you guys.